All right, everybody, welcome in. This is Your Fielder's Choice, Coffees, Corners, and Clean Sheets, brought to you by yours truly at YFC Sports V12. My name is Adam, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host at Riley Pick 345, Riley Drexler. Hey, man, good morning. And, I think that our morning was already eventful as we were encountering multiple technical difficulties. But we are here, and we're ready to rock and roll. Riley, how you doing today, bud?
I'm good, dude. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Appreciate you asking. I'd like to wish, I don't know if my wife would watch this, but happy birthday to Shayla. This is her birthday today. It's very early, so I can get a free pass to be able to do this stream for you guys real quick. And as we get the kids ready to get off to school. But yeah, guys, like I said, it's early here. I'm here in Texas, and it's a nice crisp morning here, Riley. I know you're ready to travel. I know this next week and everything like that. So this is kind of like our stationary spot. We're going to be talking about some Premier League soccer. We're going to be talking about the DraftKings and FanDuel slate that is slotted for 10 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday. So if you guys are joining us and you're new, welcome in. If you're here at looking at YouTube or Twitch or whatever decide you want to use for your social streaming, make sure to hit the bell for notifications. So whenever we do have a new video at yourfielderschoice.com, whether it be the soccer video, it could be an MLB, NFL, whatever it is, you're going to be able to be in on the action. And of course, hit the like of that thumbs up. That we really do appreciate that. And be sure to subscribe and check us out at yourfielderschoice.com. We do have a free Discord, which I will link in the chat for you guys to jump in, because there's a ton of sports out there. And I can't even name them all. But Riley, we're here to talk some soccer. We're here to talk some Premier League. So, brother, I want you to kind of lead us off here and tell us how we are going to go and cover this slate, and maybe even just a little bit of a recap of, what we've seen so far in the EPL season.
Yeah. I know we talked last week. There was a lot of offense. I feel like, I don't know. We'll see how it kind of goes on, but there has been a lot of offense on these slates. I think we should expect a lot more here. You're definitely going to need some goal scorers on this one. So I think we'll just jump in with forward. I'll just give an overview of the slate. I think we have two very large favorites. We have Liverpool is almost at minus 1,000. Man City's almost minus 600. Chelsea's pretty big too. They're almost minus 250. So we have three pretty big favorites, three popular teams, obviously. And then we have Brentford and Everton, which you just say kind of a toss-up. Brighton, Leeds, kind of a toss-up as well. So, obviously, I think we can just start with forwards. I'll kind of start with the main guys I think that everyone will be focusing. I mean, I think Salah at 10.2K. I'm surprised he's not 11K here. It's going to be hard to build anything without him. He's going to be very popular, cash, GPP, all that.
Right.
And for good reason. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he scores 2 or 3 here. I'm sure they were very frustrated with what happened on Monday. So I expect them to kind of come out guns blazing here. And I will say with Bournemouth, they did, I think they held City to 3 goals, which I know it's not saying much, but I don't know, maybe they come in here and just try to park the bus. I mean, the one concern I have with Liverpool in general is the midfield is still the same. If you watch that game on Monday, it's just not it's not the same right now. It's not the same team it was last year. They're really struggling to kind of put everything together. So,
right.
I think there might be some kind of angle where maybe you don't use that much, but I mean, at the end of the day, they're still minus 1,000. They're probably going to score 2 or 3 goals. So I would say Salah's a must play, really. I'm not one to really use someone that's super expensive like that, but it's hard to get away from him.
Absolutely.
At forward here, other guys I'll kind of put in that area. I'm going to look at Pascal Gross here at 8.8K. I think he's a steal. Should get a lot of set pieces. Leeds, obviously, they had a big win, but maybe this is kind of come back to earth moment here. So I expect him to get a lot. He's been filling it up. So I expect a good game out of him. I'll look at Tony here too at 8.2K. I mean, Everton, not been the best. So I think he's probably good for a goal at 8.2K. So really start with Salah, especially at forward, and then I'll look at Gross here too, just because I think he gives us a really high floor.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because I think that the main thing with Liverpool right now is that they're just so beat up, man. They don't have any depth in the bench. You have Diego Jota. He is still questionable to play. Obviously, having that option to be able to go to him. They kind of phased out Roberto Firmino towards the end of last season, which you saw a completely different type of Liverpool. They were able to be a little bit more dynamic, athletic, with Mane out on the left wing, even though he's now at Bayern in the Bundesliga. You have Diaz, Luis Diaz is in there, and he's basically a little bit younger. He has a different type of game, but it definitely fits this Liverpool front three very well. But, what they had this big signing in Darwin Nunez, and he got that straight red card a couple weeks ago, so he's suspended for 3 games. So with that issue, and then you have on top of that, they don't have the same type of depth in their midfield. They don't have Thiago Alcantara right now to be able to bring in either off the bench or to start for a more creative look. And so a lot of their aging midfielders is starting to catch up to them. You know what I mean? Jurgen Klopp has not really put like a consistent amount into that midfield. He's always kind of had a really big staple there with Fabinho, Jordan Henderson. Now Harvey Elliott is getting a role in there, which I really like. And Harvey Elliott, if you saw the game, he was playing. He's pretty young, spry. Like I said, he's moving around. He plays forward, makes runs and everything like that. So all that being said, I completely agree with you in the fact that Salah, he should be very popular. He is going to take the penalty kicks, like you said, and he's going to, more than likely crush here at some point. And even though he got his salary paid off in that showdown slate, it was very late towards the game, and you could feel the frustration with Liverpool now. And now they're playing at home against a Bournemouth team. You can't help but just love this spot for them here. And you mentioned Gross as well. I love that as well. I do want to we have to kind of rip the Band-Aid off of the fact that Manchester City being on the slate is someone we always have to look at here. Crystal Palace has looked really, really good. So obviously, I don't think Manchester City is necessarily going to have a ton of problems with them, but you do have to consider the fact that I think Manchester City here being at home, if I'm right, they're playing at home here, which at the Etihad, they play very, very well. Crystal Palace tends to play a very open game, a lot of counterattacking, which can be Manchester City's kryptonite here. So from that game, I mean, I know we talked about the very first slate. I know we're going to talk about it in midfield. Is there any interest here in playing outside of GPP, a Haaland, Mahrez, Foden? It looks like Foden and Haaland and Bernardo Silva are slotted to start, and Silva's only 7,500. What's your Manchester City thoughts at forward?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you can play Haaland. I'll probably stay away. I just, I'm not. I don't know. He's a tough one for me. I think he needs to score, which obviously, no doubt he can 100% score, and he's going to have good odds. But I'll definitely look at Silva and Foden maybe for a little savings. I'm actually a little bit more interested here in Chelsea, kind of at similar prices. I think a lot of people maybe throw them in the trash here after last week, but I think at the price you kind of have to look at Havertz here at 7.4K.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good buy here. I'm not going to shy away from paying up for that, or I mean, that's not even paying up, but just playing at that price, I think that's a pretty good deal. I'll play Silva at 7.5K. I think you can look at Foden too, but I'm not going to really kind of go much farther than kind of those Salah, Gross, Havertz, Silva. I think the only really cheapest guy I'm going to look at, and this will maybe be a little bit, but I'm going to look at Moore here at 3.9K for Bournemouth. Liverpool has given up 2 goals or they've given up 5 goals this season so far. So,
right.
Bournemouth obviously haven't shown us much, but I think he's really cheap, and he's done a good job of getting some peripherals, and I think they'll get a little bit of possession. So I think he's worth a shot at 3.9K. Just besides him, though, it's really kind of pay up or go down there for me. That's about it.
Yeah, I agree there. Obviously, I'm looking at some. That I think that Brighton and that Leeds game, if you can get that game right, you can definitely win a GPP. I think that's going to be kind of where I think everybody kind of, at least for the soccer sharps, people that play quite a bit, that's just a game that could, have a lot of DFS action. It could have goals. I think both the teams are playing in pretty top form here. And, as the Chelsea fan, the guy that waves the blue flag here at YFC. Yeah, last week was extremely disappointing. We didn't have Armando Broja available, which I'm really looking for. I mean, he was on loan last season, at Southampton, and then having him available, the fans, like the Twitter, everybody's clamoring for him to get his shot. They can play Sterling out on the wing, which makes a lot of sense for him. That's what he did at Manchester City, letting Broja play more central. And then you could put, Kai Havertz out, or you could even play a front three and then maybe have a Cam that can play behind Broja in a Mason Mount kind of role. But right now, Thomas Tuchel is going to stick with what he's done so far. It looks like we are going to get a Reece James right wing back again, which is, Ben Chilwell on the left. So the winning formula, the winning formation is what they're going to roll with. And so I do think Kai Havertz here, he's going to be playing very much a kind of attacking midfielder, false nine, and they're going to let Sterling play up top more. So that's just what they're going to be doing. I'm a little worried because Sterling is not a traditional number 9. Manchester City have used him in that role before. He's just not big or strong enough, but he's extremely fast, extremely quick with the ball. So he's a GPP target outside of him and Havertz. Obviously, if you pick the right one here to score, maybe both of them score here. I think that could be a really good thing. But Leicester is still a pretty good team, so we can't count them out here. If you feel like Chelsea's reeling a little bit here, now they're playing at home here. I mean, you could look at a Leicester City, Jamie Vardy or something like that. I mean, he's a very much a deeper GPP here, but he should be at least in consideration here. But it looks like I think James Maddison might be the one taking penalties. I'd be interested to see if that happened here for that Chelsea backline who could be ever changing. So anything else on forward, or are you ready to go on to midfield?
No, yeah, we can jump right into midfield. I mean, I think another guy too here that I'll definitely play a lot is De Bruyne. Not really a surprise to anyone, but I mean, they're in a good spot, and he's, to me, is safest, most consistent. Just overall, I think he's probably the best play, all things considered here, price included. I'm definitely going to look at some Luis Diaz here at 8.1K. For some reason, he's, I think, cheaper than he has been the past few weeks. So definitely going to play some of him. I like that price quite a bit. And then, so I think really those are probably two top plays, two kind of obvious ones. I think you can look at Mount too if you want, but I personally would rather play like Havertz, or if I'm just going to pay up, maybe pay up for Reece James, so we can talk about that later. I think and then kind of some guys in this range that I like at this price range. I'm going to look at Trossard at 7.2K, Gundogan at 7.1K, and then I'm also going to look, depending on lineups, not sure here, but I think you do have to at least kind of look at Damari Gray here at 6.9K. And I know Everton's in trouble, but he had, a huge game last night. He was in the optimal lineups. Brentford has given up a ton of goals this season. I mean, they've been scoring a lot too.
Right. I think we might have lost you for a second.
Price. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. I think
you're good.
You definitely have to look at him at that price. So, those are the three guys I'm kind of concerned in that range. I all think they have pretty good upside.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, guys that I'm obviously looking at, I agree with you on there. I mean, you can't not look at Jack Harrison, obviously, who's kind of been just an absolute superstar here in the Premier League. He's pulled out multiple amazing performances here. I mean, he's only 7.3K. I mean, you're talking about he's averaging 21.4 DraftKings points right now. His I guess down game or whatever you want to call it at Southampton, he was still at 14.7. He doesn't even have to play the full 90 minutes. He's still getting 82, 84. He played a full 90 against Wolves here, but obviously against Chelsea, I mean, a goal, assist, 2 shots, 7 crosses. He's someone definitely to be considering there. And I think that he might be more popular as we get closer to the slate locking. I do want to go up a little bit before we go down to any value, but I really have to mention Phil Foden here. And the reason I say that is because the one thing with Manchester City you always wonder about is like who's going to get an early sub, right? They have so many guys that can fill in, and I feel like Pep is going to be playing it game to game. So you can't guarantee anybody. He could go in and have a goal in the first half and have a really good performance, and then he's going to be out at 45 minutes. That's what they did against Bournemouth, where they won 4-0. But now they tied Newcastle 3-3, and that was by the grace of the football gods that they were able to come back in that game and actually secure a point here, which kind of shows you the differential and talent level that Manchester City possessed. So Phil Foden got a full 90 that game, which means that Pep knew that they had to score goals. They needed offense, and he's going to turn to someone like Phil Foden to be able to try to help lead that line with Erling Haaland. Phil Foden, 9 crosses last game, 3 fouls drawn, a shot on goal, 2 assisted, 2 shot. 16.2 DraftKings points is no slouch, and that's really not really dominating any set pieces. He's just active in open play. He has a lot of goal upside, assist upside. So he's somebody I definitely want to look at here. And then I do want to mention that I know that what is today? Today is the 26th. The transfer window, if you can correct me if I'm wrong here, ends at the 30th, the very end of the month. So there's a lot of teams here that we may see some very odd things here where guys are going to be slated to start then not start, or they're going to be pulled early because transfer talk's happening. I know Anthony Gordon from Everton. I know Chelsea have been interested in him. Wesley Fofana also as well. I follow more of the Chelsea transfer window, but obviously there's some things that can happen here that we have to kind of keep an eye on. And then, we talked about that Leeds-Brighton game being a very big one. I know you're a big Brighton guy. But with that being said, can't help but mention, like we talked about Jack Harrison, but Brendan Aaronson's only 5.3K. He came in, a goal, a couple crosses. The guy has plenty of talent. Obviously, he's priced kind of here in the midfield here. Solly March is another a Brighton player that I really, really like a lot. He likes to play that wing back role. A lot of crosses and everything. Playing wide is very, very beneficial. If you've never played DFS soccer before and you're playing on DraftKings, you're focusing on those wide players that have crosses, that have shots assisted, fouls drawn. Those are really good ways to accrue points on DraftKings. And obviously, if you're a set piece taker, you're going to take a lot of corners and free kicks and whatnot. So that gives you the opportunity to be able to produce more. And then on FanDuel, if you're a FanDuel player, you're focused in on the goal scorers, the guys that are taking shots, obviously defenders that are making tackles, interceptions. And so it's a different type of scenario where you're not getting scored for crosses. You have to know what you're playing there. And so all that being said, I like there's a lot of different pieces that we can look at, and I think that, I don't know if there's one guy that's standing out to me that I'm like, that, he could be the guy that could be the difference maker here, but it could be one of those cheap Liverpool guys. If Liverpool are going to route someone, you could have the Fabinho or Jordan Henderson. I think that right now, if I'm looking at it here, and I'll let you kind of finish up here and then we can move to defender. But so Jordan Henderson is only 3.8K. Fabinho is only 3.4K. Harvey Elliott is 5K, a little bit more priced up there. But, no Oxlade-Chamberlain, no Thiago Alcantara. Naby Keita is banged up. Curtis Jones is banged up. So these guys are going to get plenty of playtime. I know they put in Carvalho. He's 6.5K as more of like an attacking option that he came into the game. But, we have to consider this for GPP. If you're stacking Liverpool and you're like, man, it's very expensive to play Salah, and then very expensive to play Diaz, and then Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then Firmino maybe, or Robertson. You can get different with some of these guys. And that's the way that you stack these favorites to be different, because you can get a part of a goal by getting the assist, or maybe you're going to get a goal. These guys can be header targets as well. So, I'll digress there. Riley, anything else on midfield? And then you can kind of lead us into defender.
No, I think really there's not many super cheap plays that I like here, but I do think – Brighton, I'll probably play some McAllister. He's 5.5K. He's not super cheap.
He took the penalty.
Casado is 4.1K. I like him for high floor. And then Chelsea, I'll probably play some Loftus-Cheek if he does start. But I'll jump into defender here. Another one. I think there's a couple of kind of high price options. I think obviously TAA is 8K. He's going to give us a high floor here. He's probably the safest play on Liverpool outside of Salah, so I think he'll be really popular in cash games too. Do you look at Reece James at 7.8K? That is a little expensive, but he has been filling it up, so I'll definitely take a look at him. Kind of for, I think you really start with those two. Then I kind of have two mid-range plays. I'll probably play Cucurella. I like a lot. He's been playing really well. And Cancelo, who's only 5.5K. He kind of a slow start, but he's always a threat to get involved in the offense. So those two, I think they have good clean sheet odds too. So I'll give them quite a bit of equity. I think they're both in a good spot. And then I'm going to really dive down cheap. I'm going to look at Patterson at 3.5K again. I played him last week. He did okay. He's going to start up front here. I think he has really good goal and assist potential from the defensive spot. And he's so cheap. He really didn't seem to get a lot of play last week. So I think we might catch some low ownership again on him. So definitely going to look at him. And then I'm going to look at Jansen on Brentford. He's 2.7K, but he did take 2 corners last week. I'm not sure what was going on there, if that's going to be a thing. I mean, if that's a thing, obviously, I think you have to play a lot more of him. So 2.7K has a little bit of offensive ability from his spot. So I'm either going to pay up. I have a couple middle guys, or pay really down. That's kind of my defender thoughts this week.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I'm sorry, I'm reading, I'm listening to you, but I'm also like kind of looking here, like they're looking at guys that are slated to be out, not because of injury, just because of transfer window. And, and kind of going back to that, I think that defender, you're very, very, very on the mark here and where you should be looking at. I do want to mention, the very weird situation. The reason I'm bringing Chelsea back up because you mentioned a couple players. Or Mark Cucurella, obviously from Brighton, that came over, who I really do love Cucurella. I think that he's going to be a great addition for us here. But looking at their projected lineups right now, one of the things that they did last week, and I think it was to try to counteract Leeds being so attack heavy. Sometimes Tuchel does this thing where he puts Reece James in the back three because of his speed, and he can kind of, trail and then track down these wingers and things like that. So he was really made to Mark Harrison, but they lose the ability for Reece James to be able to be where he's so strong in that wing back advanced role. And then towards the end of the game, they needed goals. So they're like, we're just going to start, putting everything as an outlet pass to James and letting him play up high. So right now he's slotted as a wing back role, which is going to be really good there. But they're so beat up on the back three, not really having these options, needing the transfer window here, that Koulibaly with his red card, he's going to be out. So out in the back three, you might have an Azpilicueta, you might have a Thiago Silva, and maybe a Chalobah. Those are really their only center backs that we have that are going to be available. Levi Colwill, is gone in the transfer window. Is a guy that we never gave the opportunity to. But then you have a Cucurella and you have a Ben Chilwell slated to start. So they have Ben Chilwell on the left wing back role and then Cucurella in a back three role, which, don't get me wrong, I'm fine because you have Cucurella out on the pitch, but where he's more creative. And I feel like if you put him in a back three, like they did Reece James this last week, it kind of limits their upside because they're having to play more defensive. So that is something I think we'll mention. And like I said, we did plug, and the free Discord is in the chat, guys. So we will be talking in the soccer room whenever it does come Saturday morning. So that's a great tool for you to have to see what the lineups do come out. And things like that are something to pay attention to, because I was not on Reece James this last week, and it kind of helped out because, he did very well, but it was only towards the half of the game that he got to play the actual role that he's best at, which is that right wing back role. And so, he was only at 8.7 DraftKings points, obviously. Definitely think that if he gets to play out on the wing, I may like him just as much, if not more, than Trent Alexander-Arnold. However, Alexander-Arnold is going to be the ownership darling. He is going to be 8K. He is going to be chalk here just because Liverpool are such a big favorite, and he can definitely fill it up without a goal or assist on there. And then I do want to mention, because you were kind of spot on with what I was thinking, is that we're going to have to play a cheap center back here and along the way. So there's going to be some guys that we're going to look at. But if I am really targeting goals here, Riley, and I think that, we're looking at set pieces, I think that some of these cheap dudes that are a little bit lower, I know we talked about the Leeds guy, Christensen, right? And he's the former Bundesliga player. Is that correct? He's only 2.7K. So, he came in, he did not have any crosses last week or the week before, which kind of worries me, but he did get a full 90 here, had a shot assisted, and I'm looking at his opponents that he's played: Wolverhampton, Southampton, and Chelsea. And, maybe that's more of a matchup thing, but at 2.7K, you have to consider him here as well. And then you mentioned Jansen, who I do really like here as well. And then if you really want to get deep, is from a GPP standpoint, you play some of these Crystal Palace guys that, on a counterattack, they get a corner kick, they get these guys in the box, one of them gets a goal, and he's less than 1% owned. So that's something to kind of look at, because nobody plays center back against Manchester City ever, so that's something to consider.
No, yeah, if you, yeah, I mean, if we can just dive into that. We can kind of talk about strategy based on that. So, yeah, I think really, obviously, like you're going to get a lot of City and Liverpool here. I mean, it's going to be very popular and it's going to be very hard to beat. I mean, let's be honest. I think both of them are going to they're going to have a ton of possession. They're going to score. I think they're expected to score the most goals, both of them, 1 and 2. So, I think in cash, definitely make sure you get a good amount, healthy amount, maybe 2 guys from each team if you can fit it in. I do think a good GPP route, I'm going to look at too, kind of away from that because, yeah, I mean, you're not surprised in the world if I'm telling you to play Liverpool or City, but I do think you can definitely build a lot of Chelsea, and I think that might work out. I could see Chelsea scoring 3 goals here. That really wouldn't surprise me. And their prices work out too. I think you can look at Brighton too. I mean, you can stack Brighton or Brentford. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them score 2 or 3 goals.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is it worth playing them over City or Liverpool? Probably not. But once again, if we get into a situation where maybe City wins 1-0 or 2-0, which is completely likely, Liverpool wins 2-0, which once again, both of those scenarios are very likely, and Brighton wins, let's say 3-1, or Chelsea wins 3-0.
Right.
I think Chelsea and Brighton will be the sides to have. So those are going to be the 2 teams really I'm going to look at in GPP to try to get away from the heavy chalk. But yeah, for the most part, cash definitely, just eat the favorites.
Right.
Try to fill in with some guys I think might be, a little surprising. But yeah, I think in GBP, I think Brighton, Chelsea, Brentford, those will be teams I target.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, cash games, your first 2 guys that are probably going to be in your lineup are probably going to be Kevin De Bruyne, and then you're going to have to consider Salah and or Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think Alexander-Arnold, I mean, he's 8K. People are going to look at him and they're going to be like, I'm not playing a defender for 8K, or I'm not playing Reece James for 7.8, whatever he is. But the reality is that they're performing just like a midfielder. Yeah. And they have the benefit of a clean sheet upside, which is an additional 3 points. So, we have to consider those as well. That's something, that the soccer community and playing DFS definitely looks at there. But I will say, yeah, I agree with you. I do want to mention that with Leicester, you talked about Chelsea. I really do like them kind of being under-owned here, which is nice. But James Maddison did have a midweek injury. So there's a possibility. They said he's going to have a fitness test. So what I'm looking at is even if he is a go, he could be limited, which if he's hurt or he's not playing to his full potential, Leicester's like in a lot of trouble.
Oh, yeah.
He's the guy, he's the engine, right, that makes it go. And, without him, they're in a really tough spot. That means obviously Dewsbury Hall or Yori Tillemans is going to be looking at set pieces. So maybe you get a discounted set piece taker there. But I really do worry that if that's the case, I don't worry. I mean, I'm relishing it as a Chelsea fan, but that's definitely a time for them to be able to feast. And I think that we could get a showcase game here. This is going to be the Havertz or Raheem Sterling game where they're just going to absolutely blow up here. We just got to get the right one or get pieces of both of them. But yeah, man, from a strategy standpoint, I agree with you. I think that it's going to be interesting for you guys that are new. Once again, yourfielderschoice.com. Be sure to check us out right now. We do have our promo going on, and it's our MLB promo as we shift into the NFL season. MLB promo is about to end, but you do get all access to all sports premium for 50% off, $25 a month right now for entry. Obviously, we have NFL preseason going on. I know, Riley, we got tennis, golf, outside of soccer. I mean, we're heavy into Premier League season, but obviously ending up the rest of MLS season ending. And then, of course, we have World Cup coming up. We have Champions League. So there's a lot of soccer that's going to be out there on that alone. But obviously, we want to finish where MLB is going strong right now. NFL preseason is kind of towards the end. As we wrap that up, we're going to be jumping into the main NFL season. And then, of course, NBA starts right around the corner, guys. So, Riley, man, I appreciate you, as always, jumping in. I think there's a lot for us to talk about. We're going to have to revisit this at in the Discord chat on the Soccer on Saturday morning and talk a little bit more about that. If you guys are in there early, there is a 7:30 a.m. Showdown game as well. So there's going to be some chatter in there. I really appreciate all of our subs and our guys that are in there, obviously making a lot of noise. We're extremely proud of our brand here. So at yourfielderschoice.com, make sure to jump in, guys. Thank you, Riley, as always, man, and have a good day. Guys, we appreciate you joining us. Don't forget to give us that like and hit that bell for notifications. Riley, we are out, brother.
All right. See you later. Have a good day.
You too.